Hello and welcome to Table Talk. I'm your host Karen Wilson, and thanks for joining me today. My guest today is someone that is new to the community, and we welcome you. It's Miss Teresa Prober. She is the new director of Main Street McMinnville. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, and I'm happy to be here and excited and overwhelmed a little.
Well, as with any new job, you know, that comes along, and being a Main Street director has a lot more to, there's a lot more to that job maybe than what people realize. Let's kind of start at the beginning. I think it's been a long time since we've talked about Main Street on the show. Our Main Street is the envy of many communities. Tell us how it got started, and then let's talk about its function and its funding and things like that.
Well, the function as far as Main Street, you know, we are really concentrated on business owners that we have now, trying to help them market their business, if they're looking at expanding, what type of funding sources may be available to that, to help them along. When we're marketing, we also look at not just residents coming in, but tourists. So who do we market to? So we have specific targets that we look at as far as areas that are going to give us the most bang for our buck, so to speak. You know, you're looking at Nashville and Chattanooga, Florence, Alabama, Huntsville, Alabama, Atlanta, Georgia. Day trips and weekend trips are hugely popular, and people, especially from larger areas, larger cities, are really looking for the small, quaint downtown, and we definitely have that. So we do that sort of thing. We also try to recruit new businesses to come in. You know, we want tourists, but we want also people to come in and invest in downtown. And so we look at what type of business they're trying to establish in McMinnville. And we also look at, you know, how else are they going to help the community? We all want businesses to come,
right,
but we want them to have roots. We want them to stay. So we want to know how we can help them, but how are they going to help other businesses thrive? Because it's kind of like it takes a village, so to speak.
Right.
It takes a downtown and the whole downtown, you know, to kind of make that happen. So we also do that. We help people who are trying to lease a space that they have available for a business to come in, or if they're selling a building, we help them with that. We put that listing on our website and try to help them that. We also try to basically increase the quality of life, livability in downtown, bring art and music and culture and events for our residents and, once again, tourists to have pride in downtown and have it a place where, you know, you don't just come to shop, but you stroll, you have green space to relax, enjoy, well, I would say weather, but that hasn't
Not today, not this week,
but cooperative.
Yes.
However, on most days you can stroll, and besides, if you have rain boots and a raincoat and an umbrella, come downtown. That's all you need. We're still there.
That's right. You may have the store to yourself, and you can look all you want to.
That's right. So, in a nutshell, that's kind of, you know, what we do for downtown.
Lots of it's a multifaceted organization, from thinking of tourism to grants and things like that. We always think of downtown, I guess, as maybe just beautification, but there's so much more.
So much more.
Right.
A lot more has to go in, because I said, like, it's great to have a beautiful downtown, to be aesthetically pleasing and to enjoy, but it has to be economically feasible. You know, you have to have that result. People pay attention when you talk about money, and when the rubber meets the road, it's a business, and we want it to be prosperous. We want it to benefit McMinnville and Warren County. And
Right.
so
They
there's a
have
lot
to
that go in.
stay, they're making their living. This is their livelihood. So
Absolutely.
we have to remember that.
Absolutely.
You know, it's been, as we were talking before, it's amazing to think it's been 20 years since the downtown initiative started. Tell us some of the history of how it began.
Well, like I said, 20 years ago, some concerned citizens, Amy Jo Stanford, who's the president of our board presently, Cliff Davidson, Rachel Killebrew, and Joe Lunsford, she no longer
Yes.
lives here in the area, but they got together really for the purpose of revitalizing downtown. They saw it and they couldn't believe it got to the state that it was in, but let me just say, there's no blame placed
Oh,
here.
right. It's happened
Downtown,
everywhere.
yes, everywhere. You know, you through urban renewal, moved people out of downtown, which was a bad decision, but hindsight's 2020.
Well, and we all loved our malls.
And then you had the malls in the
Uh-huh,
80s,
yes.
and that and so now there's this rebirth of downtown, and realizing, one, the buildings built in the era, they're built to last. Malls are falling apart everywhere, and these buildings are still here, and so they got together with that purpose, to breathe life back into downtown. And at that time, the city really wasn't interested in doing that. And so they just took the bull by the horns and decided this is what they were going to do. And so they formed this nonprofit, which is a difficult thing to do. You have to register with the Tennessee State
Right.
Secretary of State and become this 501c3. And you have to file the IRS paperwork, and it's an undertaking within itself.
Right.
And then they said, okay, now that we've done that, we formed a board and we have a charter and we have bylaws. Let's be a national Main Street, which is another huge undertaking.
Right.
Okay, but it's beneficial because you get so much back from becoming a national Main Street
Right.
that it
Right, because it's an initiative all over the U.S.
all over the U.S.
Right, you get just feedback and you can visit other places, see how they're doing things. It's a support system.
It is. Plus, becoming a Main Street also has financial perks that you qualify for certain grants that if you're not a Main Street that you don't qualify for. And so, when we're talking about how we're funded through Main Street, we do get some funding from the city and a little from the county. But the biggest thing is we are a nonprofit, so we are responsible for raising money to produce events and to keep, paid staff, which I'm the only paid
Right.
staff member. Everyone else, is on the board, or we get volunteers and that sort of thing.
Right.
And we get sponsors for events like Main Street Live and donors. So, but
And then you can be a Main Street member, can't you, by paying yearly
You can.
dues
And
just to support the initiative.
we do, and there's individual membership, and then there's business membership, and we have 3 separate levels of business membership. So depending on what level you come in at as a business, depends on all the perks you get, which, a lot of it is heavy advertising through us to get you out there, get your business out there. And we do help businesses that aren't necessarily a member, but only if they're having like a special event in their store, or they're launching a new product line, or they've decided to have, an artist come in and play music in their store, or they're
Benefits everyone.
or they're celebrating an anniversary of being in downtown.
So yeah, perks for being a member.
Are huge. They really are. I mean, you're talking about we really narrow it down to what their business is, and they get extra types of advertising during Main Street Live and any other event that we have, and on our website, Facebook, they'll get so many posts per yearly membership. So it does benefit a business.
And
quite
I
a bit.
have seen, I'm not sure if it's through Main Street, but shop local commercials and things like that. So it also just benefits the residents of Main Street, I guess the businesses, to band together and to work together
Absolutely.
through advertising and things like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let's look at some of these beautiful, not so beautiful and then beautiful pictures of the before and after of some of the Main Street things. Right now we're looking at the area that used to be, it's in front of City Hall. I'm seeing the old fence there instead of the beautiful grassy area.
Yes, and as you can see, you have the above ground utility, you have sidewalks that need repair and love, and along with buildings that need freshening up and some structural issues as well. So, but yeah, this was before 20 years, like before Main Street came about.
Yeah, and then we go to the after, and there's all the beautiful pavers, the green grass where events take place now. It's just, and the trees, and as you said, the utilities.
Right, and exactly. And this was a partnership with the city. We partnered with them to get the TDOT grant that took care of the infrastructure, everything that happens underneath, which is vital because you can't expect businesses to come in when you have sewage issues and water issues and gas line leaks and expect them to open a shop and operate under those conditions. So, it was much needed. And so then Main Street, through fundraising, paid for the beautification that you see to, include trees in it. When planning this phase one, all of the master plan, you have to look at even trees, what trees go downtown because you don't want them to grow too big.
Right, can't have roots that are invasive.
No, and so, there was an urban forester that came in and said, okay, these trees will work the best, plus they'll last 100 years if you put an underground watering system in.
Oh, okay.
And so the roots will grow down instead of up, and so, you already have trees that, as long as the underground water system is running properly and maintained, then that tree, you're getting so much money, bang for your buck kind of thing, 100 years. So.
And then, of course, we walk along the shady path, the sidewalks in the summer, and it's beautiful. And plus, being the nursery capital of the world, we have to show our trees out. And then, gosh, this part right here is amazing, North Spring Street.
Yes, and you see a huge difference 20 years before phase 1 and 2 got started to where we are now on North Spring Street.
And this is one of the amazing, because this was in pretty bad shape.
Yes.
There were no businesses left to speak of along North Spring Street. And now, I mean, it's kind of one of the hot spots to be in. You've got the spa, Ryan Moore's office is there, Kimmy's Tea Room, and then, gosh, I know I'm leaving out a Candle Place or something like that.
Yankee Candle,
right.
Yeah, so.
And beauty shops and everything.
Yes, it is a thriving area.
And then probably still a little work to be done down on the very end of it.
And we're trying to get there.
Yeah, well, it
trying
takes time.
to get there. Yes, it does take time.
And then the City Mall area, that has become such a destination for people to make senior pictures and things like that. Essentially, I guess they just tore down the building facade that was there, probably
Yes.
a burnout building at
Yes.
some point.
And now we have, like you said, that beautiful walkway where people do stop and take pictures. There are places to sit and relax. And then, it leads you to the farmer's market, which has been such a huge success. And that draws people into,
Yes,
downtown.
we can't leave out the farmer's market
No.
because in the summer it is, spring and summer and fall. What a great place to go shop and buy local.
Absolutely.
Beautiful produce and flowers and all kinds of things. And then the back area of the City Mall as well, that's been transformed.
Yes, and that's the thing. It wasn't just, the facade, but we looked at rear facades and entrances to buildings. And, it makes a difference, especially because a lot of the areas in McMinnville downtown you can drive behind buildings and you see that. So it wasn't, it's
That's
something that
true.
needed to be
You really
addressed.
don't think about that back street, and I'm having a moment right here, but behind, where Central Church is and all of that, you do see the backs of the buildings so much, and they're all painted nicely now. The windows are maintained.
Yes.
So, and then some people utilize those entrances to go to and from for their employees and things. So.
Yes, and putting in little courtyards where people can sit after they've shopped, they can eat, relax, chat, have a picnic. All of that's important because you want people to commune downtown, to have a place to come and relax, and so the more green spaces and benches and venues for them to do so, the better.
Yeah, boy, you can see it around the fountain for sure. There is always a crowd there. So let's go, into some of the data, because that can be just as important as the pretty parts we've talked about. What are the results of the marketing analysis that you did?
Well, since it's been 20 years and we're still moving forward, we wanted to understand how people in Warren County and McMinnville shopped. And so that's why we wanted this market analysis. It kind of gives us that insight, how they shop, when they shop, what they're looking for in downtown, what's their biggest concerns in downtown. And then that way we can look at this and see, how we need to move forward, for the next 20 years. Okay?
Right.
So one of the things that we found out is that the top 3 days that people shop in McMinnville are Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Okay, Saturday being the number 1 day. Okay, and then we found out the top 3 time slots that people shop on those days are between 11 and 1, 1 and 5, and the number 1 was after 5. So the number 1 day is Saturday. Time slots after 5. But yet when we go downtown on a Saturday, a lot of the majority close 2, 3, and 4.
With the exception of the restaurants.
With the exception of the restaurants. So looking at that, we know that this is a tool that we can take to business owners and say, okay, this is what the data is showing.
Would you be able
us.
to extend your hours?
Right. Because people you come to eat a meal. If the shops are open, then you can stroll and walk and shop, and then who knows, maybe they're going to go to the park theater to catch whatever.
Right, an event.
An event. So it's important, and like I said, that's why we wanted this done, and it can help business owners moving forward.
Definitely.
So another thing that we looked at is what are your top concerns or issues with downtown? Number 1 were buildings that need repair. Number 2, inconsistent store hours. We have some businesses in downtown that their hours are listed on their door, but they're not abiding by them. And that can be detrimental, especially for tourists who come and word of mouth, it gets around.
Well, and everybody, usually if you're going someplace, you're checking it out on social media to make sure they are going to be open.
Exactly. And then, so that's a problem. And then store variety, looking at what we have downtown and wanting some other types of shops to fill in.
And complement what's there.
What's lacking. And so from there we asked, well, what would you like to see in downtown that's not there? It was crazy because it was neck and neck for the top 2, 49 and 48%. Fine dining with a full bar or a pub type restaurant with a full bar. They were like neck and neck. A bookstore.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
And then more entertainment venues downtown.
Right.
So those were the top 3.
Well, and we were looking at what used to be downtown in some pictures before, and there were like 3 movie theaters down there, at that point. So that kind of backs that up, that that's always needed here. More entertainment, maybe not necessarily movies, but something of that nature to entertain. Let's talk about the economic impact of Main Street on Warren County. What has that been?
Well, when you look at the figures, we look at things like jobs and how many new businesses were added and overall investment income for a certain year. So when we look at 2017 and 2018, 40 jobs were brought in to downtown.
That,
Created
right,
40
just
jobs.
that one
Just
section
that
there,
one
right.
year. And if you look at from 2013 to 2018, a total of 131 jobs were created in downtown.
That's very meaningful in a town our size.
It is. And then you look at 2017, 2018, new businesses that came in, 11 new businesses opened in that time frame. And if you look total between 2013 and 2018, 46 businesses opened.
Well, and I will say, it seems that the businesses that are there are thriving. They're not closing in 6 months or a year or 2 years. They are there for the long haul.
Which is important because, you know, having that constant overturn of a business, you know, it's just not stable for your downtown. You know, some people will come and say, you know, I like that business, and they come back and it's gone. Like, oh,
That's
well.
disappointing,
It is.
yes.
It's very disappointing. And then when you look at building rehab projects, if you look at 2017 to 2018, there were 35 building rehab projects, whether it was interior or exterior. In 2018, investment total in downtown was $1,305,275. So, you know, that's a huge number for a size of downtown McMinnville.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
it's
yeah.
not.
So, you know, all the effort from 20 years ago, it slowly has paid off, and it's amazing how it's thriving now, and we wish that for all the communities in our area,
Absolutely.
the surrounding areas, because it's just a great program.
Well, and when you look at tourism,
Yes.
you know, just in Warren County, $26 million tourism expenditure for 2018. Local revenue, tax revenue for Warren County was $1.1 million from tourism. So when you look at that and you put all that together in tax savings, every household in Warren County saved $166.93 last year because tourists came in and spent their money. Tourists are the best. They come in, they spend, and they leave. We don't have to spend anything. We don't have to provide, you know, it doesn't tax our school system because we're
Right.
adding more students, fire, police, none of that. They're awesome. And so it's important to partner with people, with other entities. For example, the Caverns. Thousands of people go there every year. So if we partner with them, some people go there, they don't even know downtown McMinnville exists.
Right.
So we need to get that word out. We need to
Right.
partner with them. And Isha, look, thousands of people go there.
Right.
So it's important to look beyond downtown.
The downtown area, right.
And why are people coming to Warren County and getting them to come downtown?
Right.
Kayakers.
Oh, yeah, that's still so popular and probably will be. You know, and I know there has been a little bit of contention downtown about events and things like that, but hopefully everybody can come out happy with that as far as a good way to have events downtown, but yet the business owners are still happy
Right.
that they are there, their parking is still in place and that type thing.
Absolutely, and we're working on that. You know, it's a constant solution. You know, if this doesn't work, well, let's try something else. I mean,
Right.
this worked this time, but now things have changed. So what else do we? You know, what other parts of this puzzle do we need to look at so that we can have events, businesses benefit from them? And I think sometimes what people don't realize is if you have an event and you have people coming in and they may not come into your business that day, but they see that business and they hear people talking about it and say, well, gosh, I don't have time to go there today, but I'm going to come
Coming
back.
back,
And
yes.
they do. They come back. And so you may not see the benefit that particular day, but
It's in
8
their
times out of
mind.
10,
You've
it's in
been
their mind,
showcased,
and
yes.
they come back.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about going forward. I know just very, very soon will be Main Street Live. What's happening, you know, this summer with that, and then, you know, beyond 2020 even?
Well, we're looking at possibly bringing in some new talent, but we'll still have the old favorites like Joe Harvey, which everybody loves, put it around, you know, the 4th of July.
Right.
Bands that people, you know, enjoy listening to, you can dance to, they get the crowd excited. So yeah, we'll have some
Yeah, you guys do a
previous bands.
wonderful job at that. You've had Beatles tribute bands and
yeah, people wore their Beatles shirt that day. That
Four
was
on the floor, everybody, they
huge
get
hit.
everybody going, so it's always a lot of fun. And it's free, so
It
you
is
can't
free.
beat that.
And thank God that we have sponsors that make that happen, because like I said, like you pointed out, it is free, and it's family oriented, and it's a good time for everyone.
Lots of vendors, you can eat your dinner there, or you can
Yes.
eat dinner at the restaurants downtown and then go up and hear the music. And before we were talking about the third phase of Main Street. Let's talk about that and when that may begin.
Well, we're looking at, just like we did on East Main and North Spring Street, we're looking at starting that phase where, you know, we'll have the infrastructure taken care of, because those areas are still suffering with sewage problems and gas leaks and things like that. So, you know, we'll go for that TDOT grant again for those parts. And then, you know, basically the same type of formula. TDOT grant for the underground infrastructure and the above beautification.
Right, and you were talking about Colville, and what are some of the other streets maybe that
Munford
would...
and some areas on West Main, and there's probably about 6 or 7 different areas to look at that we'd like to get started on. But once again, it's a huge undertaking. It's a slow process, but you know, when you saw the before and after pictures, it's well worth it.
Right.
You know.
And we will say the pretty part of it is kind of the icing on the cake. All of the infrastructure change. I mean, when that started, it was probably pushing 100 years old, I think.
Yes.
And those metal pipes and things don't last forever.
No,
so
they don't.
That had to be done
Like I
regardless.
said, you want that. That helps attract businesses. And not just businesses in downtown, but having a healthy, thriving downtown is important when other companies want to come in, not even to your downtown, a manufacturing or whatever. You know, they look at things like what's your school system like, what type of housing do you have. They also look at your downtown. Is it thriving? Is it a place where a community where people can gather and they have pride? They took enough pride in their community to invest in it. So that's important. We're also looking at more events. We're looking at having more events at the farmers market. You know, having a health day where Parks and Recs come in and do some free workout classes. Maybe Isha can come in and do a meditation class. The yoga studio in downtown can do a free yoga. We'll have local chefs cooking with products from the farmers market. You know,
that
to
would be
promote
wonderful.
Healthy eating. Maybe partner with the Humane Society and do a pet adoption day with stupid pet tricks. People can enter their pet. People love their pets.
They sure do.
And, you know,
Sometimes I think it's like pets than kids.
so, you know, things like that. We're also looking at the Blue Building. And it's a great building.
It is.
And it's in good condition. There are a few issues that need to be taken care of. But what a great space for a mixed use where you have some apartments and condos and retail. People want to live in downtown, and there's such a demand for that. And there are not a lot of apartments or condos for rent in downtown McMinnville. We're working on it. There are people who are trying to rehab their second levels for that purpose, but it is a slow process. So that would be a great space.
Yeah, all the character of the Blue Building, you just can't beat it. It's a beautiful place.
And Depot Bottom, parts
right.
of that are vacant. So bringing in artists and musicians to kind of...
I know, I think of the Gulch in Nashville and how they revitalized that area. Now everything goes on there.
Absolutely. So those buildings are eclectic. They're a great environment for artists. You don't need much to take one of those factory buildings. They can use it, you know, partly as a loft and then produce their art and musicians.
Well,
So it's a-
wonderful things. Well,
You're
thank you
welcome.
so much, Teresa. We are so proud to have you to the area. You've moved here, or you're in the process of doing that. So it's always good to have fresh perspectives and lots of experience that you bring with you to Main Street, McMinnville.
Well, thank you, and I really enjoy it. It's a lot, but I couldn't imagine doing anything else.
Yeah, very rewarding.
Yes.
Yeah, lots of good relationships with all the businesses and city officials and county officials too.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Well, thank you so much, Teresa, for coming in on this wet, rainy day. We hope for better weather soon. And I want to thank our guests for coming to the table today to learn more about the great things going on in your community. We hope you will come back again next week for more Table Talk.